At this moment, Shu Qian, trapped in the sword formation, felt immense pressure. Already at the spiritual refinement stage, he could capture all surrounding hostility and automatically feed it back to his mind. But 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, no matter how keen his senses are. He's still just 2 arms and a blade. It's getting a bit overwhelming. So, the next level for a warrior is copper skin iron bones, specially designed to counter sieges. Shu Qian has gained a deeper understanding of the martial system. Each rank compensates for a shortcoming. If someone could reach the martial god realm, they would probably be invincible in the world. Suddenly, a sharp sound of wind breaking swiftly approached. Shu Qian felt a tingling sensation on his scalp. No matter how smoothly the energy circulated, there would always be inertia when the flying sword changed direction. But number 4's flying sword moved as he wished, completely defies the laws of physics. Doesn't Newton deserve some respect? By the way, this isn't Newton's jurisdiction. Given the current situation, Shu Qian has no fewer than 3 ways to respond. The first is the last strategy of the 36 stratagems. The second is to use the Confucian version of the magic book. It records several spells specifically for dealing with sieges. The third is to ignore his own injuries, deliver a heaven and earth slash to Chu Yuanzhen. But this is just a cut. None of these 3 methods are appropriate right now. Shu Qian swept away the oncoming branches with a single slash, focusing his mental energy, attached to the black gold long knife, spinning, slashing. The dark golden blade strikes the stabbing branch. At the moment of collision, Shu Qian suddenly comprehended the technique of dispersing mental energy. With a buzzing sound, an invisible force spread out in a fan shape, enveloping the flying swords behind him. The branches paused slightly. Shu Qian felt a surge of joy, and repeated the same method. Wielding his brush like splashing ink, he threw his spirit force forward, cutting down all the remaining flying swords. At this point, you broke through Chu Yuanzhen's sword array. Chu Yuanzhen, astonished, asked, "How did you discover my mental power attached to the flying sword?" Shu Qian, hanging onto his sword and panting, gave a helpless, bitter smile. "This is probably talent." Outside the courtyard, Emperor Yuan Jing glanced at Luo Yuheng. Seeing the national teacher's beautiful face, a flash of astonishment crossed his eyes. Luo Yuheng withdrew her gaze, and praised, "This child is exceptionally gifted." Emperor Yuanjing rarely heard the national teacher praise a junior so highly, even though she had just praised Shu Qian as well, but more often it was just politeness. Now, it's genuine admiration. This piqued Emperor Yuanjing's interest. Luo Yuheng noticed the emperor's reaction, and explained, "I have mentioned to your majesty before, that I taught Shu Yinluo the way of the heart sword 10 days ago. The threshold for the heart sword is extremely high, even for an outstanding disciple of the human sect. To get started, it can take as long as 6 months or as short as 3 months. With this explanation, Emperor Yuanjing understood, yet Shu Qian only took 10 days. He looked at Chu Yuanzhen on the rockery and asked, "What about him?" The beautiful national advisor replied, "Likewise, using a warrior's body to practice the human sex sword techniques." Chu Yuanzhen took 1 month to simultaneously master 3 sword techniques. At this moment, Chu Yuanzhen smiled and said, "What is your ultimate skill?" Shu Qian asked in return, "My ultimate skill." Chu Yuanzhen nodded and said, "From beginning to end, you have never used your ultimate skill. If I don't show some skill, this duel will be too boring." Shu Qian hesitated a bit. Although he really wanted to try, he still worriedly said, "You are about to face Li Miozhen. I'm afraid I might accidentally hurt you." Affecting the battle between heaven and man, Luo Yuheng and Emperor Yuanjing simultaneously shifted their gaze away from the top scholar, and looked at Shu Qian. "That's quite an arrogant statement." Chu Yuanzhen's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "That last move was rather dull. Show me what you've really got." Shu Qian nodded. "I'll make only one move. After the move, our sparring will end. This is to prevent Chu Yuanzhen from counterattacking after taking a blow. Turn yourself into a porcupine." Chu Yuanzhen pondered for a moment, and asked, "After using your ultimate skill, will you enter a weakened state?" Shu Qian was somewhat impressed. The top scholar is indeed smart. His mind is really sharp. He didn't waste any more words. He took a deep breath, centered his energy. Shu Qianan retracts the black gold long knife, and returns it to the scabbard. Then he takes a bow step, his knees slightly bending, his right hand slowly pressing on the hilt, assume the stance of drawing the sword. Suddenly, a clanging sound is heard, as Shu Qian flicks out the black gold long knife with his thumb. He envisions a roaring golden lion in his mind, accompanied by a majestic roar. He's drawn his sword. Chu Yuanzhen's ears thundered. It was as if lightning exploded above his head. In this critical moment, the top scholar calmly handed over the branch. The moment the branch touched the blade's aura, a violent shockwave swept through the entire garden. The rockery at Chu Yuanzhen's feet exploded first, followed by the pavilion behind him. The 4 pillars broke simultaneously. The pavilion roof flew off into the sky. Emperor Yuanjing was stunned at this moment. This strike completely exceeded his expectations of Shu Qian. Luo Yuheng saw that they were about to collapse the meditation room behind them. She slightly parted her red lips. Stop. The violent shockwave instantly froze, and then disappeared. In the field, Shu Qian sat cross-legged, holding the knife with one hand, his expression listless. Chu Yuanzhen's half-sleeve was blown apart, revealing a muscular, powerful forearm. He slowly curled his 5 fingers. Wei sighed. Impressive, impressive? If you were at the 5th rank, this strike could have seriously injured me. Shu Qian's face immediately darkened. Damn it, I put all my strength into that strike, and it was all for nothing. But complaints aside, I can't lose in terms of momentum. Shu Qian raised his head, imitating Shu Erlang's expression. He said calmly, you are indeed worthy of being a match for Li Miozhen. I, Shu, am humbled. Chu Yuanzhen smiled and nodded. He knew Shu Qian was also very proud. This pride is no less than that of the scholars of Yunlu Academy. Emperor Yuanjing revealed a hearty smile. Chu Yuanzhen is indeed a distinguished disciple of the human sect. This level of cultivation is rare. Shu Qian is still far behind, but after all, he's just a silver gong. He still has room for improvement. Luo Yuheng did not refute. She just forced a couple of laughs. Emperor Yuanjing became even more pleased. I have matters to attend to in my palace. I cannot stay long. National advisor, see me off. At this moment, Shu Qian in the yard suddenly shouted, your subordinate pays respects. Chu Yuanzhen also saluted, but did not speak. Emperor Yuanjing rarely did not have a stern face, nodded and said, an exciting duel. Shu Qian, you have great talent. Don't let the court's training go to waste. Shu Qian responded fluently, thank you for your guidance. I will devote myself to my duties until death. Emperor Yuanjing nodded with satisfaction, and walked shoulder to shoulder with Luo Yuheng out of the hall. Shu Qian watched the two's backs and pouted, so stingy every day. All they do is give insincere verbal praise, no real rewards. Once the two were out of sight, Chu Yuanzhen said, Brother Shu, please wait a moment, I'll go change my clothes. With that, he turned and went to the quiet room. A few minutes later, Shu Qian looked at Chu Yuanzhen and asked puzzledly, Brother Chu, aren't you a student of Yunlu Academy? Chu Yuanzhen poured him a cup of tea, and explained gently, I studied at Yunlu Academy, and later went to the Imperial College. In my youth, I was full of ambition. I wanted to use my talents to serve the emperor. I knew that students from Yunlu Academy were not valued. Then left the academy to study at the Imperial College. Shu Qian asked, then why did you resign later? Chu Yuanzhen sighed, because a scholar is useless. Scholars cannot save Dafeng. So he resigned and became a commoner, traveling the world with a sword. Shu Qian slapped the table in approval, truly free-spirited. No wonder Chu Yuanzhen just gave a slight bow when he saw Emperor Yuanjing, and did not greet him. It seems that the one who truly disappointed Chu Yuanzhen back then, was this emperor obsessed with Taoism. The two of them drank tea and chatted. It was all Chu Yuanzhen talking, telling Shu Qian about his years of travel experiences. The northern barbarians number no more than 1 million, while just one province of our Great Feng has tens of millions. But for thousands of years, the barbarians have always been a major threat to our Great Feng. Do you know why? Because the northern barbarians carry the bloodline of ancient gods and demons. Shu Qian is puzzled. Ancient gods and demons. Chu Yuanzhen continued. It is said that when the world first began, a group of gods and demons were born who could move mountains and fill seas, and pluck stars and hold the moon. Later, they somehow went extinct. The northern barbarians being called demonic gods is not without reason. They are naturally strong and powerful. Occasionally, babies with atavistic traits are born among them. Their bodies grow scales. A single horn grows from their foreheads. Grew a giant snake tail. It was 2 jong tall at the age of 3. Various anomalies confirm this statement. According to these phenomena, the historians of Dafeng inferred, there must have been an era of gods and demons in the primitive times. In those times, humans were as weak as ants. They could only survive by clinging to gods and demons. This is how the current northern barbarians came to be, and we are the humans who rose up later. Shu Qian argued in his mind. No, don't gods and humans have reproductive isolation? He asked aloud. I suspect it's a hybrid of human and demon, and not some kind of gods or demons. After all, the northern barbarians and northern demon tribes are allies. Regarding this issue, Chu Yuanzhen pondered for a long time. Then he said, about whether gods and demons exist, I heard a saying, the Gu god sleeping in the extreme abyss of the southern border, is a god and demon that survived from ancient times. Shu Qian suddenly felt a stir in his heart. I have a thought, is Gu god an ancient demon god? We can ask number 5 about this. He asked for confirmation. So, in the Battle of Shanhaiguan back then, the northern and southern tribes are allied? Chu Yuanzhen said excitedly. This is a good idea. We only know that the northern and southern tribes have always maintained relatively friendly relations, only separated by a large dafeng in between, all concentrated on Liang Liang's pancake. So they are natural allies, but it could also be their divine demonic lineage that maintains their relative friendliness. The historian would be very excited to know this idea. Crossing the northern barbarian territories, further north is the polar region. It's so cold there that it can freeze you to the core, but there are still traces of life. I once saw a peculiar race with human heads and fish bodies. They possess intelligence, but they don't speak human language. They can communicate through gestures. Their groups are mostly female. Often, one male is assigned to multiple females, to make them pregnant. Apart from mating, males don't have to do anything else. Hunting is left to the females. When Shu Qian heard this, he felt extremely envious. Chu Yuanzhen continued, but because of overwork, males often don't live past 20 years, and the offspring are still mostly female. Shu Qian suddenly felt a bit disheartened. So, boys should keep themselves pure, and protect themselves. They shouldn't let women crave their bodies. Chu Yuan Town continued, they face a genocidal crisis every 60 years. Because all the males die off, there is no one left to impregnate the females. It so happened that I went to the northern polar region that year. Shu Kanan was shocked. And then you successfully impregnated the female? Chu Yuanzhen spat out a mouthful of tea, spitting it onto Shu Qian's face. Chu Yuanzhen handed over a handkerchief, while asking in shock, why do you have such a guess? Shu Qian waved his hand, refusing to answer the question. Please continue. Chu Yuanzhen didn't press further. That year happened to be the year of the male's extinction in their species. In order to repopulate the species, some females would transform into males, bravely taking on the burden of reproduction. The queen of the species will be the first to change gender. This is her duty by nature. Once the queen becomes the king, he expands the harem, summoning his daughters into his own harem. Shu Qian's face instantly darkened. His mind was filled with complaints. Unsure where to start, he sighed. The wonders of creation are truly astonishing. Chu Yuan laughed and said, don't just listen to me. Brother Shu, your name is known to everyone in the capital. Your glorious deeds must be the talk of the town in tea houses and taverns. Tell me about those cases, Brother Shu. Shu Qian straightened his posture. This is a long story. Let me start with the tax silver case. At that time, my second uncle was implicated in the tax silver theft case. Knowing that his days were numbered, after I learned about this, I told second uncle, this case is full of flaws. In my eyes, it's just a little trick. I can solve it with one incense stick. But I have to admit, I was indeed young and reckless back then. I underestimated all the heroes in the world. Chu Yuan was intrigued. What do you mean by that? Shu Qianan said indifferently. At that time, I actually used 2 sticks of incense to solve the tax silver case. Chu Yuanzhen was momentarily speechless. He wanted to spray tea on his face again. Shu Qian started from the tax silver case and continued to talk about the consort Fu case. Chu Yuanzhen held a teacup but never took a sip. He listened very intently. When he heard something confusing, he frowned in puzzlement. After Shu Qian revealed the inside story, he suddenly understood and smiled. Chu Yuanzhen felt a stir in his heart. He thought of Minister Shu's cousin, number 3. Previously, he speculated that number 3 was related to the pure aura rising to the heavens at Yasheng Temple. He believed that Taoist master Jin Lian valued number 3's uniqueness. Only then did he give him the Earth Book fragment. Afterwards, he learned about number 3's cousin, Shu Qian. He believed this young man was also extraordinarily talented. Taoist Jin Lian appeared to give the Earth Book fragment to his cousin. In fact, he had the idea of benefiting both brothers. Now having witnessed Shu Qian's abilities and talents, he became even more certain of this suspicion. He smiled inexplicably, thinking that Taoist Jin Lian was indeed shrewd and scheming. At this moment, Chu Yuanzhen suddenly felt a palpitation. Ming had received a message from the fragment holder. At this moment, so did Shu Qian. Almost instinctively, they spoke at the same time. "I'm going to the toilet." As soon as I finished speaking, the two fell silent. They looked at each other, a little at a loss. Shu Qian was thick-skinned, with a composed expression. "Brother Chu, you go first." Chu Yuanzhen also felt no suspicion. He got up and left the quiet room. After the sound of footsteps gradually faded away, Shu Qian took out the jade mirror to check the transmission. "My silver has been swindled. What should I do?" Shu Qian's mouth twitched. This was really something expected. At this moment, Chu Yuanzhen replied, "What's going on? How was the silver swindled?" Heng Yuan said, "Lina, where are you now? How far are you from the capital? How much money have you been cheated out of? If you have no place to eat, see if there are any temples nearby. Let's go there to beg for alms." Shu Qian almost burst out laughing. From ancient times till now, only monks beg for alms. If Lina were to beg for alms at a temple, how do the monks feel? Li Miaozhen said, "It's one thing to be cheated out of money. But your tribe, you let a young girl travel all the way to Dafeng alone? Don't you know to send an elder along?" At this moment, number 1, who had been silent, couldn't sit still. He sent a message saying, "Remember not to do anything that violates the laws of Dafeng." Shu Qian watched them chat enthusiastically. A sudden feeling of loss rose in my heart. Everyone is so worried about number 5, and me? In their eyes, I'm already as good as dead. Lina saw how much the members of the Heaven and Earth Society cared about her. I was so moved. Nini told me about being deceived. "Thank you all for your concern. I'm in Yangzhou. Met an old Taoist this morning. He said I have extraordinary bones, a 1 in a million genius. I think he's a true expert. Otherwise, how could he spot my uniqueness among the masses?" Shu Qian's mouth twitched a few times. "No, it's just a con man's opening line. Are you really that dumb or just overconfident?" Li Miaozhen said with some frustration. "And then you got tricked without any defense." She was really furious, encountering such injustice, and unable to rush over. The feeling of helplessness was awful. She was hopping mad. Lina quickly sent a letter to explain. "Of course I'm not that stupid." Shu Qian rolled his eyes. "Look at what you're saying. Does that even sound human? If you're not stupid, then who is?" Lina continues to argue. "This Taoist priest is truly skilled. He not only discovered that I'm a genius, he also saw that I'm from the southern region. I changed into Dafeng's clothes when I left the south, completely disguised herself as a Dafeng woman." Chu Yuanzhen said grumpily, "What about the echo? Did the echo change?" Lina was puzzled. "What accent?" Chu Yuanzhen was speechless. The Earth Book chat group also fell into a brief silence. Lina continued speaking. "The old Taoist said, traveling, money is the most important thing. He asked me where I was going. I told him I was going to the capital. The old Taoist then asked how much silver I had. I told him I had 60 taels. He then said that the journey to the capital is long, and 60 taels are not enough, but he has a treasure bowl that can make the silver increase continuously. Put in 1 coin. The next day, you can harvest a whole basin of copper coins. Put in 1 tael. The next day, it's a whole basin of silver." Chu Yuanzhen asked, "Did you believe it?" Lina said, "At first, I didn't believe it, but the old Taoist demonstrated it in front of me. He asked me to put in a piece of silver, cover the treasure bowl with a cloth strip. Sure enough, After an hour, there were several more pieces of silver. The old Taoist said, "His magic item is only given to those with fate, so he sold it to me cheaply for 60 taels of silver." I put my last 2 coins into the treasure bowl, but it's already been more than 2 hours, still no silver has appeared. Shu Qian is really impressed. With this level of intelligence, even my little Do Ding wouldn't necessarily be fooled. Shu Qian laughed. Sure enough, to swindle silver from Xiao Man Niu, stealing and robbing are useless. Deception is the only way. At this moment, Li Miaozhen said, "Number 5. The magical artifact is priceless, rare and hard to find. How could someone give it to you for no reason? You must remember this lesson." Lena sighed. "But Taoist Jinlian gave me the fragment of the Earth Book. He also said at the time that the magical artifact would only be given to those destined for it." Li Miaozhen angrily said, "It's all the Taoist's fault. So, after all this, it's all my fault, huh?" On the other side, Shu Qian, already laughing like a pig, suddenly, a soft and melodious voice came from behind him. Jinlian founded the Tiandihui with the initial intention of mutual help, not to make fun of each other. Shu Qian's pig call suddenly got stuck. He awkwardly saluted. "Master," Luo Yuhing said lightly, "is number 5 from the Gu tribe of southern Xinjiang?" Shu Qian had endless complaints in his heart. "You know even this? How long have you been spying on me behind my back?" He answered truthfully, "It seems to be from the Li Gu department." Luo Yuhing heard this, and slowly nodded, commenting, "Amazing strength, unmatched in the world." Shu Qian secretly glanced at the Grandmaster's small cherry lips, and asked, "Stronger than a warrior?" Luo Yuhing said lightly, "In terms of pure strength, warriors are far inferior to the experts of the Strength Gu tribe. The techniques of the 7 Gu tribes are too simplistic. Any single tribe is not worth worrying about, but if 7 tribes join forces, even the Buddhist sect would have to be cautious." Shu Qian raised an eyebrow, instantly interested. "I thought to myself, the beautiful national advisor is in a great mood today." Luo Yuhing continued speaking, "I just heard Chu Yuanzhen talking to you about the ancient gods and demons. The Gu god is indeed the only remaining god or demon in the world." Shu Qian was taken aback, asked back, "Are there really gods and demons?" Luo Yuhing nodded. "Except for the demon race and the human race, all the exotic beasts currently existing in the 9 provinces are descendants of gods and demons. Haven't you been to Yunzu? The legendary beast from the imperial city is the descendant of gods and demons. The flood dragon from the southern border and the spirit dragon in the imperial palace, they are all descendants of gods and demons." Shu Qian probed, "How were the gods and demons exterminated? It couldn't have been a volcanic eruption or a meteor strike, right?" Luo Yuhing didn't answer, her beautiful eyes half closed. Sitting silently, Shu Qian secretly observed Luo Yuhing. Although the national teacher has a myriad of forms, making people see her as a little sister from childhood, a childhood friend like Takagi-san, an older sister with a 36D bust, among many other images, but most of all, it was her true appearance, kind-hearted auntie. Anyway, secretly peeking wouldn't escape the Grandmaster's perception. So Shu Qian simply decided to be more open, directly and unabashedly admiring her unparalleled beauty. At this moment, Taoist Jinlian sent a message, "I've already blocked number 5. Let's discuss how to handle this matter. My suggestion is to ignore number 5. Let her fend for herself in the world. I believe she'll learn a lot from Nanjiang to the capital." Shu Qian nodded secretly. "Granny Jinlian has good intentions. Let number 5 experience the harsh realities of society. She will grow up quickly." Li Miaozhen disagrees with Taoist Jinlian's approach. She writes back in rebuttal, "The Zhonghu is complex and people's hearts are treacherous. Although number 5 is very powerful, but she is too naive. Wisdom is always more useful than strength." The top scholar gives his opinion. Number 5 is indeed naive and inexperienced, but she is not a fool, know how to seek advantage and avoid harm, also know what can be deceived, and what must be protected and upheld. "I think Taoist Jinlian's suggestion is good," Hung Yuan said. "I think, what we need to consider now is not this long-term issue, but how to solve her food and lodging tonight." This sentence was like a conversation ender. The chat group fell silent for a long time. "What can we do? We're just online friends. We're scattered all over the place. There's no Alipay in this world to transfer money. Li Miozhen said. How about letting number 5 perform? Smashing stones on his chest is quite popular among the folk. If he smashes stones all the way to the capital, he can surely earn travel expenses. Hung Yuan suggested. We can seek alms and lodging from temples. It's just that there aren't many monasteries in Dafeng. It's hard to quench immediate thirst. Chu Yuanzhen said. In times of emergency, it's okay to get something for nothing. Taoist Jinlian said. Number 5 wouldn't steal silver. If she had to do it, it would be a robbery. Saying this, he privately messaged Shu Qian. Number 3, do you have any suggestions? Shu Qianxin thought. Although the old silver coin said that number 5 should face society's harshness, he still cares about the holder of the fragments of the Book of Heaven. Shu Qian did not hesitate to send a message. Is number 5 pretty? Taoist Jinlian answered without thinking. Good looking? Shu Qian sent a message. That makes it easy. My advice is to be a player, and impart a famous saying to number 5. Bunnies are so cute. Why eat them? Young heroes of the martial world really fall for this. Learn this trick, and your food and lodging on the road are secured. But Shu Qian has been sending letters for so long, yet received no response from Jin Lian. Not long after, Chu Yuanzhen returned, and said with a smile, Brother Shu, it's your turn. Shu Qian suddenly realized, almost forgot about going to the bathroom. Then he walked out without batting an eye, planning to take a quick stroll around the outhouse and come back. But at that moment, he saw a young Taoist leading a middle-aged armored general, walking hurriedly over. The young Taoist stopped outside the quiet room and said loudly, Taoist leader, the chief guard of the Prince of Wise Mansion requests an audience. Upon hearing this, Shu Qian suddenly stopped in his tracks. The Northern King's mansion. In the quiet room, came the melodious and soft sensual voice of Luo Yuheng. What's the matter? The middle-aged general said in a deep voice. Grand advisor. The princess is missing. I've searched the entire royal city but couldn't find her. The princess is very close to you. I am here to inquire. Shu Qian's ears perked up. The princess of the North King, the number 1 beauty of Dafeng. Luo Yuheng in the quiet room responded. The princess is not at Lingbao Temple. General, you should search elsewhere. The middle-aged chief guard left worriedly upon hearing this. Shu Qian watched the chief guard's back as he left, feeling even more puzzled. The princess is missing? Return to the gate. Shu Qian discovered that the 2 groups of Zhonghu guests had already paid the silver notes to ransom themselves. Now he has 600 taels of silver notes in his pocket. Feeling extremely satisfied, seeing outsiders dressed as wandering martial artists on the streets is like seeing fat sheep. Unfortunately, for the next half day, we didn't encounter any brawls. After the shift, we returned to the mansion. At dinner tonight, Uncle Shu told an amusing story at the table. Today, the princess consort of the Northern King ran away from home. All 5 guards of the capital were mobilized. The white-robed officials from the observatory assisted in the search. We searched all afternoon but couldn't find her. He asked. What happened then? Uncle Shu sighed. She went back on her own. So, she ran away from home. The guards in the palace were so worried. They thought the princess had been kidnapped. Women can be so willful. Thousands of people searched the entire city. Aunt rolled her beautiful eyes and laughed. Thousands of soldiers can't even find one woman. The court might as well raise thousands of dogs. At this moment, Shu Erlang made a discovery. He said, although the Prince of Y is a prince, the princess is missing. In theory, it shouldn't alarm the 5 guards of the capital. Uncle Shu answered, we found this puzzling as well. We asked the Quinhu commander, but he didn't know either. He only said it was the emperor's order. Shu Qian had this suspicion in his heart. Emperor Yuanjing really cares about this sister-in-law. Could it be an old flame rekindled? No, that's not right. The princess was an imperial consort of Emperor Yuanjing. She just entered the palace a bit late. By then, Emperor Yuanjing had already taken a vow of celibacy. Later, she was given to the Northern Guardian King, and became the princess of Prince Y. Perhaps there's some inside story behind this, but such trivial matters are not worth my concern. He turned his head to talk to Erlang. Tomorrow is the final match. Shu Erlang nodded, looking confident. Shu Qian said boldly, do your best. In the realm of poetry, Big Brother can confidently say, No one in 5,000 years of Zhizhou can rival me. At the break of dawn, Xu Erlang, accompanied by his father and big brother, he came to the examination hall with a lantern. Once again, he saw the bald man and the swordsman in green. This time, Erlang was very calm. He just thought they were fools, and he couldn't avoid them anyway. He simply returned a cold smile, as if in defiance. Chu Yuanzhen was somewhat displeased at this sight. He said in a deep voice, "Number 3, that smile is quite arrogant." Hung Yuan didn't think much of it. Instinctively explained to number 3, the last session of the imperial exam, he probably thought he was sure to win. Chu Yuanzhen snorted softly. "I almost thought it was a provocation." Heng Yuan said calmly, "Let's go. Next, we wait for the results. After that, it's your duel with Li Miozhen." Chu Yuanzhen nodded slightly, walking side by side with Heng Yuan, suddenly said, "Master, what level is your combat power now?" Heng Yuan thought for a moment and shook his head. "I rarely spar with others." Chu Yuanzhen made a sound of acknowledgement. He thought to himself, "We're all a bit like number 6. None of us can be judged by normal standards. From the martial artist perspective, I'm just a 7th rank alchemist, but his true combat power is far greater than that. Master Hung Yuan is an 8th rank martial monk, but his true combat power is equally unfathomable."